following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday episode featuring the HighLowSports podcast. Today, we're doing something we kind of teased last week, and we're going to go ahead and make it a bit of a regular thing now here. We're giving it a good try. DJ joined, as always, by Kelsey. And Kelsey, we love doing rankings so much. We're going to take a slight twist from that. We're going to start doing tiers. Welcome in, everybody, to the first ever official on Tuesday, Tier Tuesday.
Yeah, no, this is going to be fun. I know we kind of broached the subject last week on the episode. This week, I'm pretty excited for our first Tier Tuesday. It's a joint venture, obviously, so it's, like we've had our times where we've each done little different special projects individually. This one, we love ranking so much, we had to do it all together.
Absolutely. And you know what? We decided we're going to do a doozy for this one as well, too. The NBA draft was very recently. We saw Victor, Where's My Banana, get taken number one overall, as everyone expected for the last year and a half. And you know what? We're going to go ahead and rank the number one overall NBA picks going back to 2010. We won't have Victor on here because, well, you got to at least wear a jersey in a game to get on the list. So he hasn't quite got that far yet. So let's go ahead and break open the tiers here now. And you can see we got the 12 players on there. We got S tier is the best. D tier is the, well, could have gone better. We're not going to give everyone Fs because you get to the NBA, you don't necessarily need an F. So we'll cut it off at D at the bottom. So Kelsey, I'm going to let you lead the way. We got John Wall, a man who had a song named after him before yet, if I'm not mistaken, right as he entered the league, if not even before that. Where do we want to classify him on here? And we're encompassing the whole career, not just what we know of him as now.
Yeah, no, so, if it was just now, it would be a D rank. I don't think there's any question about that. But I do think since it's the whole career, he came on with such an explosion on screen, quite literally carried Reebok shoe line for many years after they actually gone extinct. Let's not forget about the Reebok Zigs, the John Walls, if you will. They lasted for quite a few years afterwards. Multi-time All-Star, if I'm not mistaken, during his time. You talk about keeping a team relevant. He kept the Wizards absolutely relevant, similar to what Gilbert Arenas was doing back in his day with the Wizards. So I'm going to say overall in his career, he had such a great start, but such a poor last few years due to injury and various other things, like whatever the Houston is. I'm going to go just a straight B ranking. I don't think there's anything else to do. Like, it was so good to begin with, and then so bad the last couple of years. It just evens itself out.
Yeah, the last time the Wizards were any good, him and Bradley Beal were hustle and flow, minus that play-in situation with Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. But the last time the Wizards felt like a true contender, he had those two as hustle and flow leading the backcourt. And if that Achilles doesn't go out and those body injuries don't start kicking in and it doesn't rob him of his athleticism, he might be an A because he was on a hell of a trajectory with just the ability to explode, and he could dish the ball pretty well and still couldn't really shoot as well, but he shot good enough considering how explosive he was. There was a case for him to be the best point guard in the game at one point. A case, not a strong one, but there was one. So I think B is a good fit for him considering we haven't really seen him play much in the last 5 years, so you can't go much higher than that. That's going to lead me now to, this is a fun one. This is probably going to be the most fun ones we have on the list. We got Kyrie Irving, number one overall. Ironically, only played a handful of games at Duke. I don't even think he played 10 games at Duke before he got injured.
Nope.
We know the history of Kyrie, up and down, always a story. It feels like there's always something. That being said, cleanest handle in the game, can get you 25 a night. Okay defender, not a great one. Won a championship, big-time shot. We're going to go ahead and put him in the A tier. And this is an upper A tier as well. If you saw our quarterback ones, we do kind of rank him in tier as well. I think he might be one of the, if not the highest A tier, he's definitely right up there. The only reason he's not quite on the S tier is it's been so rocky after he left Cleveland. There's been moments, but like you see the Celtics, their best runs were after he left. Saw Brooklyn, that kind of imploded. Went to Dallas, they were 5-16 with him and Luka on the court or something ridiculous. So incredible player, A tier, incredible career, but there's a little shakiness. So we're going to keep him at A tier.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually think his career kind of got dismantled by LeBron joining him back in Cleveland. I think he was well on his way to being an S tier guy. And then he got LeBron in Cleveland, and then he realized he didn't always have to do everything. We're talking about a guy that was scoring almost 40 a night, it seemed like, when he was by himself in Cleveland. Sure, they weren't going anywhere, but he was doing everything possible. Now it's like, can you even keep him on the court? I agree with the A ranking, but I think he could have been a guy that we saw in this S tier type of class here. And all it would have taken is for him to take that onus of superstar, but he never really seemed to be willing or want to embrace it. And you kind of saw that if you ever watched the Uncle Drew movie. That was kind of the persona Uncle Drew gave off, too. It's like, I don't really want to be the superstar. I could be, but I don't really want to be that guy.
there will always be the what if too. Like, what if him and LeBron had stayed together in Cleveland just a little longer? Were they going to beat those Golden State super teams? Probably not, but you never know. You never know. It'll always make you wonder. So you get a fun one here too with Anthony Davis is the next one here on the list.
Yeah, look, I'm going to say this about Anthony Davis. Absolutely fantastic player. He is a 6-time All-Star, 3-time starter in the All-Star game, a championship winner in the bubble. 3 times he's led the league in blocks, however, not since leaving New Orleans. Career 30, hold on, where's his points per game? 24 points a game type of guy, gives you 10 rebounds a game. I don't think there's any question he's an S tier out of this. I think he easily classifies himself an S tier. We've talked about him potentially taking over for LeBron. That's not easy shoes to step in, but he has the body and the game to kind of do that. And really, we've seen a development in him since he got to LA. Now we've seen that bolster his strength and get bigger, stronger, more athletic. We saw what he did to Nikola Jokic, and don't get me wrong, yeah, sure you lost, but man, he gave him the run for the money every single night for the best player in that series. Had it not been for Jamal Murray and everybody else stepping up for the Nuggets, maybe that's a different story in how that one finishes. But Anthony Davis, and this year especially, it looked fantastic. I don't think there's any question that he's an S tier type of first overall pick.
He has a weird trajectory. He feels almost like a modern day Dwight Howard. Like when he's on both ends of the court, it's holy moly, this guy could be the best player in the world, but sometimes injuries and just things like that naggingly get in the way. So I'm in agreement with you. Anthony Davis is S tier. If Kyrie's on the cusp of S tier, Anthony Davis, I think, is certified S tier. So that I won't say that was the easiest one, but it felt pretty.
I think this one might be the easiest one.
We got Anthony Bennett, the first overall pick in Cleveland. We're not going to go too much on that. A great basketball player overall, but in the NBA, it just didn't quite work out. Not gonna berate him, but it just didn't quite work out for him. Still a good player, still had some moments, still changed his life. So we're gonna put him in the D tier for now, just because by the number 1 overall pick standard, didn't quite work out.
Yeah, 4.4 points per game by the time he bounced out of the league in 2017. Now, with that said, won a EuroLeague title, has had a pretty good career overseas. I say that knowing full well he's really kind of struggled as well to find a landing spot. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough. I don't know. I still to this day will never understand what the Cavs were thinking with Anthony Bennett. You
and everybody else, the best soundbite from that whole thing was, I think it was Bill Simmons saying "Whoa" really loud, to the point where they even put that in NBA 2K at one point. So definitely one of the more interesting picks on here. But that's going to leave you with Andrew Wiggins here from 2014.
Yeah. Okay. So statistically, this guy was supposed to be that dude. He was supposed to be the next LeBron. Has only made an All-Star game one time in his career. He did start it, however. Interesting enough, he does have a title. Got it with Golden State in 2022, 2021, 2022. Has led the league 3 different times in games played, so pretty good Iron Man as far as early in his career. Lately, you've been struggling with injuries. If I had to classify him, I'm gonna go A, but I'm gonna give him the back end of an A, really the front end of a B type of ranking. He's definitely not an S-class type of guy yet, and he's nowhere near Kyrie. There's a level to this one. He's like on A part 2 level, not A part 1. I also think he's just had a better overall career because of his defensive ability than John Wall. And I think that sounds blasphemous, but he's also, up until this last year, we haven't really seen him miss a majority of games. So I'm gonna go end of A tier. I think he's the end of A tier. Maybe beginning of B tier if we're going to put him anywhere.
Ooh. We'll go and toss him at the beginning.
I'll let you make that final decision.
We'll put him in B tier with room to operate. So everything you said there, that Karl-Anthony Towns, you could kind of follow a similar pattern, but the opposite is he's had really good regular seasons, an incredibly good player. The playoffs have not been his friend. Shoots a little bit too much from the outside than I would like. And you could just there's just a little bit left there to be desired. There's a chance he might get traded this offseason too. We'll keep an eye on that. Maybe a change of scenery will work. Clearly, him and Gobert was not a good idea. I don't care that Karl-Anthony Towns could shoot. Gobert is offensively limited. And when you have Anthony Edwards as your main slashing option from the perimeter, it was just a bad decision. So I'm going to put him in the B tier as well. I'm going to put him slightly ahead of John Wall just because he's still going. I think he's a solid B tier player. He's a really good number 1 overall pick kind of player. 3-point shootout, multiple-time All-Star. The one thing that's always weird to me is in college, that Kentucky team with him in the front line was so good defensively. In the NBA, his defense has just been pretty good. Like, it hasn't been great, but it hasn't been bad. It's just not what we coming out of Kentucky. I thought take him over Okafor because if nothing else, he'll be a lockdown defender that can make free throws. Weirdly enough, his offensive game got better, but his defense took a little bit of a plummet. So we'll put Kade in the B tier.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. If he played down low a lot more, I'd obviously change my mind. I do think maybe, out of the case between him and Wiggins, maybe even give him a little nod over Wiggins at the end of the day. But, it's a small nod. I think Cat has a little bit more capabilities on the court than Wiggins, because we just don't always see Wiggins' style, where we always see Cat, at the very least, giving you effort. I mean, you can't doubt the kid's effort. So I do agree he's a B guy, but I'd say, given what I said about Wiggins, I think he's slightly ahead of Wiggins. So.
And that being said, too, Wiggins won that title, but he was the fourth option on the team as well, which is not a problem. You still won the title as a starter. You were an all-star starter, which through kind of goofy methods, but he still made it. So it's not knocking the accomplishments. But I think when we're going individual rankings, I'll give Cat the slight edge here. As much as some people get mad at Cat, I think he's still been a really good player.
Oh, absolutely. I 100% agree. I'm probably one of the harshest critics of Cat, but, I mean, you can't doubt his actual ability. I don't think there's any question about that. But that'll take us to the other guy who was supposed to be the next LeBron. That is Ben Herniated Disc Simmons. And I say that because, well, you can't keep him on the court. Quite literally, I don't know the last time he played a full season. And truthfully, I don't think he's ever played a full season. No, he's played 81 games in 2017 and 18. That was, mind you, after missing his entire rookie season. Still somehow won Rookie of the Year in his second year. Got an All-Star selection the year after. Has won all defensive selections. First team All-NBA. Sure, great, wonderful. Can you say he's a great player, though? Because you can't keep him on the court. He's played just over exactly 100 games in the last 3 seasons. He's played 100 games. That's tough to swallow. Kind of similar to John Wall for injury. I don't know if I could put him in A class. When he's on the court, yes, I think he is there. Defensively. And passing the ball. I'm never going to ask him to score. I never will ask Ben Simmons to go out there and give me even 15 points, let alone 10. But I'm going to go B. Just injury with B. Back end of B, yeah, right there. I think maybe even slide him just in front of John Wall, because when he's on the court, I do think he's a solid piece. I don't think he's a guy that you're going to ask a first rounder for, but he's a guy you can get a 12th man on the bench for.
I would say they did kind of bench him down the stretch last year because he was a liability offensively. Like, he was healthy to play.
So bad offensively. Like, there's no question. Like, offensively, I don't know what happened to this guy, but we're talking about a guy who went through the first 3 seasons of his career without hitting a 3. Let alone, didn't he even attempt one of his first 3 seasons? I don't even think he did.
He probably attempted 1 or 2, but it was not pretty. It was very, very limited. We'll see if he can turn it around. Still a pretty young guy, but there's some work to be done there for sure. Yeah. Next, we got Markelle Fultz, and he was a really good player at Washington. That shoulder/shooting motion thing coming out, unfortunately, kind of, I don't want to say wrecked him, but it really threw off that early career trajectory. Ended up leaving Philly, is now in Orlando, if I'm not mistaken. I got to put him in the D tier just because, I mean, you look who's taken after him. Lonzo, Jason Tatum. Like, that's a De'Aaron Fox. That's a really good class, and it was a slow start. I think he'll climb into the C tier, but I want to put him in the D tier, but the gap between him and Bennett is really, really large. Like, if I could, I'd put Bennett all the way over here. Like, Fultz is ascending. I think he'll make it to C tier, but right now, that's just such a rough way to start your career.
Yeah, he's had a tough one. I mean, he kind of ended the whole trust the process concept by himself. So that's, I mean, between him and Ben Simmons not staying on the court, take your pick. But I think Markelle Fultz has had probably the toughest situation just because that shoulder, and it's not something he can really help too. That shoulder impingement situation was like, that's something that most players don't even come back from. We're potentially talking Lonzo Ball might not ever come back from something very similar to that in its own right. So it's a tough situation to see, but yeah, he is trying to make a comeback. We'll see what he can do, but that'll come. DeAndre Ayton next up. I honestly don't know what to do with DeAndre Ayton, because he is all my anger with Cat mixed with, well, he's actually made it to a Western Conference final.
NBA.
Yeah, even to the NBA finals where he didn't show up. He's also been on a franchise record team with wins. He's also been suspended for drugs. He's also gotten all rookie honors. This one's tough for me. You know what? I'm going to say C. I'm going to say he's a C guy. I don't think he's done enough quality-wise over long term, and maybe that'll change with Monty Williams gone, but I don't think he's done enough to earn a B tier.
Well, Frank Vogel's usually pretty good with centers, looking back at Roy Hibbert, so maybe something can work with like that with, well, maybe he can end up being a defensive anchor when you have 3 flamethrowers on the outside now with Durant, Booker, and Beal. We'll definitely have to wait and see. Or maybe he finally ends up getting dealt after being basically on the trade block the last 3 years, it feels like. So that's one to monitor for sure.
Hey, you can at least hit 3 out of 4 free throws, though, so that's doing better than most guys.
That's true. Speaking of most guys, we have Zion Williamson, who the ultimate hype coming out has been so good when he's on the court, but he's missed so much time with injuries and just other things like that. I'm putting him in the A tier because when he's on the court, he is better than everybody below him. He averaged 28 points on 60% shooting. That is absolutely insane. Most guys that shoot 60% give you 14 points max. He gave you 28 plus the rebounds. He's in a goofy spot right now is what we're going to call it. We're not going to get too in depth on that, but I think a change of scenery would help him. We'll see if the Pelicans do it, but when he's on the court, he is awesome. We saw the Pelicans were 3rd seed in the West when he was healthy. Then that injury kicked in and they plummeted badly. So we're going to put Zion in A tier because when he is on the court, he is that good. And he hasn't had the Ben Simmons being benched situation. So we'll put Zion in A, and maybe he gets traded in a contract year and balls out and he gives you that 28 and 13 and gives you 70 games this year. Or maybe he stays healthy. We'll wait and see, but I think he's outstanding when he's healthy.
Yeah, to your point, when he actually got a chance to play most of the season, 61 games, which nowadays seems like a real season for most people. 33 minutes a game, 61% from the field, gave you basically 70% from the free throw line, seven rebounds a game, and 27 points per game. I mean, despite all the injuries, the dude's averaging 25.8 points a game, and like you mentioned, 60% from the field. It's pretty impressive for a guy that, yeah, sure, he may have a highlight dunk reel better than some long-term pros, but I mean, he does know how to actually shoot the ball. So he's a guy I definitely want to see get healthy and actually stay on the court. I mean, if you can see that, then again, I can say that about most of these number 1 picks. Like, it seems like we're going down the list here of guys. But that's going to take us to Anthony Edwards, and I'm not even going to spend much time on this. I think he's an A-class guy. I don't think there's any question. He's the best out of that trio from the Wolves that have been drafted. I say number 1 overall. I know Wiggins was a Cavalier when he was drafted number 1 overall. He didn't spend much time with the Cavs though, so he's a Wolf at heart. But I'm gonna give Anthony Edwards that A class. I just think he's the best of the group. Once they figure out how to not have 3 centers on the court at one time, I feel like he'll have a lot better options. But I think right now, I mean, offensively, defensively speaking, he is the class of Minnesota. And really, I mean, you talk about that really central area of the teams, and maybe the best player in the central parts of the country, and not on either coast.
I mean, Giannis might have a word about that, but I know what you mean.
Okay, fair enough. He's on the but see, Giannis is on the coast of a Great Lake, so that's my caveat.
Mr. Go-Go Gadget Arms with that reach right there. But but as you said, he's a fantastic player, and I think once they can build around him a little bit better, I think we'll get to see him shine a little bit. Next, we got Kade Cunningham. We haven't seen a lot of him is the bad part. The injuries and plus being on a bad team. So I'm going to stick him in C tier, but there's a clear ascension for growth. Like, there's a clear path for climbing up this. Like, it's nothing he has done. It's just kind of what he hasn't got a chance to do yet, really. I mean, that's a rough situation, the injury. So we'll put him at C. Maybe Monty Williams coming in there and they move some things around. We'll see. But I like C tier for him for now.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. It's definitely one of those things you have to wait and see with him. And I think we're taking it to the next step here with the next guy, Paolo Banchero. It was easy pickings for him to be Rookie of the Year this year. Makes complete sense. 20 points per game, almost 7 rebounds a game, 3.7 assists per game. You'd like to see his field goal percentage go up, but he did play 72 games as a rookie, and also gave you 73% from the line. If I'm going anywhere with this guy, I'm gonna say he's upper B class moving into the A class. It's just because he hasn't been a long-term situation. Yeah, that's a good fit right there in the middle. But he's just, I mean, give him another 2-3 years. I don't think there's any reason not to think he's going to be up there with Anthony Edwards in a short period. He is he is one of the best things going for this Orlando Magic team. Obviously, with Cole Anthony there as well, those two combined can do a whole lot of damage offensively, and I'd like to see what Paolo Banchero can do long term. I do think there's a lot of ability there. Maybe another Hito Turkoglu type of player, where maybe not a superstar, but a really good player.
I'll say he was minus 4,000 odds for Rookie of the Year back in like January. Like he pretty much had that thing locked up and ready to go real quick. He had a fantastic season. It took a lot of people by surprise. So I think B tier is a good spot for him with a clear path to jump a lot of these guys as well. So this is what we got for our tier rankings of the number one overall picks in the NBA since 2010. Let us know in the comments what we did right, what we did wrong, and what was just downright embarrassing. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you all again next time.